Rising. We have a marvelous Thursday show for you all today. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, Brianna.
Hello, Robbie.
Let's get right to it. More Fox News, I believe.
That's right. Sean Hannity is set to take over Tucker Carlson's old 8 p.m. spot on Fox News. According to the reporting from The Drudge, he'll be joined in the evening lineup by Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld, who've also reportedly been promoted to primetime. A Fox News spokesperson denied confirmation that the changes are happening to Mediaite when asked, saying, quote, "No decision has been made on a new primetime lineup, and there are multiple scenarios under consideration."
Well, the Drudge Report left out news on current 10 p.m. host Laura Ingraham, which was leading to some speculation online that perhaps she was looking at being axed. But Fox has totally refuted those notions, saying that Ingraham is going to remain a full part of the lineup. However, there's still some speculation going on that she could be moved off primetime because the specific wording the spokesperson used was, quote, "Reports based on various tweets by left-wing activists are wildly inaccurate. Laura Ingraham, the top-rated woman in cable news, is now and will continue to be a prominent host and integral part of the Fox News lineup." So this is all coming from the Drudge Report. Now, the Drudge Report has a history of getting some really inside scoops. I'm reading for the first time this new book by Ben Smith, BuzzFeed Semaphore guy, on the history of BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and Gawker, and it talks about Drudge a lot and Drudge's early successes, including Drudge being the first place you would encounter news of the Monica Lewinsky stuff. That's where it broke, on Drudge. So history of getting great scoops says the primetime lineup is being reorganized. So Jesse Waters currently in prime time. He's currently in the so his show was before Tucker was 8 p.m. So he's 7 p.m. And then Greg Gutfeld has the 11 p.m. slot, the late night show thing. And then Jesse and Greg both are part of the 5, which is on 5 o'clock. So some of this is just it sounds like if it is happening, it's kind of just moving around people a little bit. But but moving Sean even to a different hour would be a big deal because he's been at his current hour for a long time now. And then there was nothing about Laura Ingraham in what Drudge reported, so that was making some people think, well, maybe she's being moved out of primetime entirely.
So what would you think about that decision, given that she is the top-rated woman in cable news?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't know that it's true that it's going to happen. I can't imagine them wanting to replace her without. I can't imagine them wanting to have an all-male lineup. Frankly, you want a little bit of diversity there. I don't know, and I'm not sure they have another obvious female. It's not like they have this really. I mean, they have a lot of very successful female conservative talents, don't get me wrong, but I don't know who it's not obvious to me like they're trying to elevate someone to replace her. So, I don't know.
Is it worth speculating about why it might be that Laura Ingraham, given that her ratings don't seem to be the issue, might be on the chopping block, or at least the block to be displaced from her primetime slot? Again,
I don't know that she is on the chopping block at all, but that is what is suggested by this report from Drudge.
She, of course, was implicated in some of the the texts that came out around the 1-6 reporting, and also some of the Dominion lawsuit texts. She famously texted White House Chief of Staff saying Donald Trump needs to tell these people to go home, seemingly anticipating that he was getting himself into territory that was going to be both bad for him, perhaps bad for the country, and perhaps also something that she didn't want to defend on air. There were a series of texts between her and Tucker Carlson behind the scenes that came out, and some of the Dominion lawsuit reporting. And it would be interesting to see whether or not she has been showing allyship to Tucker Carlson, whether that is causing friction, whether she has been pushing back perhaps around his ouster from Fox News, or if there are opportunities she's looking to, like the ones Tucker is availing himself.
I don't think her programming really engaged in Stop the Steal stuff at all. I know that while she was very supportive, obviously, of Donald Trump, like everyone else in conservative media while he was president, I think she's perceived as very much in the it's time to move on camp, very much ready to crown a successor to Trump, DeSantis, obviously. I remember some reporting that, Trump has a list of people in conservative media who are still utterly, absolutely loyal to him, and she was no longer on it because she was ready to say good things about DeSantis. So I don't know. And also, so there's speculation that is absolutely not confirmed, and I don't know that it's true at all, that Tucker was ousted as part of the Dominion lawsuit because that was like a like a covert agreement they reached. Like it's not in paper anywhere, but they had a handshake agreement, Dominion and Fox, that Tucker is going to have to be fired. So some people are saying, well, maybe Laura. So we don't know if that's true. Was Laura a part of that too? Why would Fox have taken a deal that required them to fire 2 of their main 5 hosts?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know.
But also, what's the rationale with respect to Laura Ingraham? Well, let's also talk about the Sean Hannity
Well,
part
and it
of
seems
this.
like the rationale for Tucker was really more to hurt them, to collect us, not to have something super relevant to Dominion or to the lawsuit, but to make them feel the pain because losing Tucker is a big deal.
Sure, although Tucker wasn't some incidental figure in the context of that lawsuit. I mean, remember the reason why Dominion had such a strong case, despite the law not favoring defamation suits in this kind of media context, is because they have proof, there's these records, because of the texts and emails and all the behind-the-scenes conversation, that there was a different reality that the Fox News were representing on air versus off air. So they had very little cover in the way of saying, we just made a mistake, or we had someone on who said something that we disagreed with, but we pushed back on air, those kinds of things. When you have Fox hosts like Tucker Carlson representing that he does not believe in Stop the Steal offline, but encouraging a certain amount of that sentiment online, that's where the grist for the lawsuit actually came from. So he wasn't incidental to the power of the strength of the claims that Dominion was actually bringing. I'm going to put that out there. But let's talk about the Sean Hannity piece of this, which in some ways is the bigger news and the more clear news. Sean Hannity taking over Tucker Carlson's spot. What do you make of that decision? Can he capture that same populist energy?
Well, I mean,
is it going to go well for him?
And I'm saying they haven't moved him in forever, but that might actually not be strictly true because there was a slight reshuffling when, I'm trying to think back how this went, when Bill O'Reilly departed, Megyn Kelly got her own hour. I mean, there was a little bit of rearranging a few times that wasn't really getting rid of any because and then Martha McCallum used to be in the evening, and they moved her to the morning. So he might have gone from like 9 to 10 or 10 to 9 once. So honestly, this might not be really a seismic change. Who Tucker is ultimately replaced with, because here's an hour we have to fill with someone, will still be the very interesting thing. Even if Sean is technically filling that hour, well, then who's filling Sean's hour, right?
Sure.
That's the big question. Yes, I think whoever's watching Sean Hannity will watch him an hour earlier or an hour later. That's not really a big deal.
So you still think there's a need for Fox to get someone who can capture the audience that Tucker managed to capture in the kind of public sentiment? Because yesterday we got into it a little back and forth about who counts as a Republican. If you were out of step with the kind of rising populist trend within the Republican Party, are you really still even a Republican? But Sean Hannity, who is now perhaps most watched host at Fox News, isn't part of that kind of populist Republican trend. He's a much more traditional conservative. And is Fox News still going to be hurting, even if they reshuffle the deck chairs in the Titanic in this way, for not having a popular host that captures the kind of Trumpian sentiment of the mainstream Republican Party at this point?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. Tucker was very unique in some of the issues he staked out and the effort he put in to make non-interventionism, some economic trade stuff that was a little bit clashing with where Republicans used to be, make that the center, a big part of the new Republican agenda. And that was the strength of his personality, his conviction, his desire to actually fight with Republicans who he thought were not living up to that, to not just be a cheerleader all the time for Team R. Like he had an agenda. He was not going to just applaud everyone with an R next to their name no matter what they do. He wanted to bring them closer to his way of thinking. So is the next person going to do that? Going to be, and that, because that takes a lot of discipline. That takes a lot of, again, conviction. You have to have sincere beliefs, or at least sincerely enough held beliefs to know, which are the Republicans that are moving my way. For Tucker Carlson, that was your J.D. Vances, your Josh Hawleys, your those kinds of people, and then feature them and reward them, and go to the more chameleon type, the Lindsey Grahams of the world. Why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? Actually, Jesse Waters, I will say, has done a little bit of that, more than I maybe would have expected. I think he's been really good on actually some civil liberties issues. Frankly, the whole lineup has been pretty good on some of these efforts to go after TikTok, for instance. Jesse Waters hauled Lindsey Graham on and yelled at him for supporting, one of these anti-TikTok bills that was going to be like Patriot Act for the internet and all that kind of thing. So I hope to continue to see a lot of that.
Yeah, well, it's worth saying also that Jesse Waters and the civil liberties advocacy seems to stop at kind of personal liberties that are caught up in the culture wars and people's individual choices to live their lives the way they want, if they're trans or have a trans member in their family and things. They
brought me on. I was on Fox in the evening like 2 weeks ago to talk about not banning social media for kids and why that would be a disaster from a civil libertarian standpoint. So you got to get out the message wherever you can. All right, coming up, here's something I haven't said in a while. I will tell you what's on my radar. That's right, I wrote one. Stay tuned.